publishing PTSD. It caught me by surprise. I'd thought I was made of hardier stuff, but post-resignation I quickly realised that my identity and sense of self-worth were more tangled up with my fancy job title and an association with a famous international magazine masthead than I'd known. The giveaway was that every time someone asked me what I did for a living, I'd feel a rising dread and find myself starting with, well, I used to be the editor-in-chief of Elle magazine, but... a strange and awkward way to introduce yourself when you have a perfectly acceptable and interesting new job that you do now. And also, I'd cry every time I accidentally wandered into the magazine aisle of Woolies, which was a pretty clear sign that I had some unresolved issues. I suppose it was understandable. My whole life I dreamt of being the editor-in-chief of Elle. Against all odds, I'd gone and become her. Once that part of me was gone, I couldn't help but grieve. I'd liked her. She'd always had excellent shoes. In the meantime, I'd started my new job, which was something I never expected to have to do until it came time to retire to the Byron Bay hinterland to launch an artisanal cordial business. The new job was at a different company and in a different building to the storied 54 Park Street, where I'd worked on Dolly, Shop Till You Drop and Elle magazines for 15 years of my life, longer than any relationship I'd ever had or any address I'd ever called home. It was also in a completely different part of the industry, and my first experience, since Ashton Kutcher convinced us that Twitter was a worthwhile way to spend our time, of having to genuinely learn things that were completely new to me. I was well and truly out of my comfort zone, and despite the advice typographic Pinterest quotes will give you about no great things ever coming from within comfort zones, at least mine had come with gifted Gucci handbags. So at the unsexy and hitherto unimaginable age of 41, I found myself in the midst of something of an identity crisis. Did I mention I was pregnant with my fourth child? This was not the idyllic book-writing experience I'd imagined for myself. Instead of the turret, I wrote on airplanes and in hotel rooms on work trips with jet lag. I wrote in bed with my laptop balancing on my belly while battling pregnancy insomnia, and on the toilet with my laptop balancing on my lap battling pregnancy constipation. I wrote in a corner of my living room, trying to block out the sounds of my eldest son teaching himself the guitar by playing the first few bars of Nirvana's School over and over and over and over and over again. I wrote whenever I could bribe my other children with more screen time just to get a little bit of blessed silence. At one point I tried dictating into my phone on my daily commute, but found myself going off on so many tangents I started to fear conversation in case that's what talking to me was actually like in real life. I wrote in the passenger seat of a rented minivan on a family road trip with 3 kids fighting in the back when I was supposed to be navigating, and I'm miraculously still married. I wrote one-handed while attempting and failing to breastfeed a colicky baby. Once, in desperation with the deadline looming, I even attempted to write "hold up" in a hotel room while microdosing magic mushrooms, which, instead of giving me the creative surge I'd hoped for, just made me fall into a sleep filled with wonderfully vivid dreams, but no resulting word count to speak of. That was probably for the best, but still, you know you're chronically exhausted when even psychedelics can't keep you awake after 8 p.m. Like anything a woman does when trying to balance a job and a family and the general perils of modern-day living, this book was eventually completed in random fits and starts, wildly insufficient stolen moments, and almost 2 years after the agreed deadline. To put that into perspective, John Boyle wrote The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas in 2.5 days. That's embarrassing. But I share my shame because when a woman who has a high-profile career and multiple children does something annoying like publish a book, our natural reaction is to compare ourselves to them. What we perceive, though, is just a half-truth, a highlight reel. We don't see the fails, the imperfection, the often bloody hard work. We don't see all the snapping at their children they did or the fighting with their partner, and we definitely don't see the mess, both literal and figural, they leave behind in the wake of trying to get it done. We just think, bloody hell, she wrote a book this year and I've barely been able to keep the fiddle leaf fig tree alive. We think, how does it come so easy to her? We think, she must really have it all together, and also look at her shiny hair. Why isn't my hair that shiny? God, I'm so fat. I'm the worst at this. I once ended up in the wormhole of a parody Marge Simpson Instagram account and found myself unsettled and wanting for days. The last thing I would want this book to do is contribute to the culture of comparison that curses us all. I think it's important for anyone who picks it up to know that the process was a bit of a shit fight, and the fact that you're listening to it right now, something that is far from perfect but at least done, is somewhat of a miracle. I know that I've been lucky enough to experience a lot of high shine.